Yes, people want to deduct their pets, and yes, the tax court has allowed it. The IRS may hate that outcome, but their no isn't the law. Court decisions are. Okay, I'm Jasmine DiLucci. I'm a tax attorney, CPA, and enrolled agent. I got my first tax license as an enrolled agent in high school because I genuinely love tax law, and now I break down what the law actually says so you don't need thousands of dollars or a law degree to actually understand it. Today, we're answering the big question: can you actually deduct your pet? By the end of this video, you'll know exactly when the law says yes and when the IRS can shut it down. Okay, here's what we're going to cover. First, what the IRS typically argues. Second, what the law and tax court cases actually say. And third, the rule based on tax court cases so you can determine whether your pet qualifies as a business deduction. First, let's talk about what the IRS typically argues, okay? When people imagine an IRS audit, they picture agents carefully reading Internal Revenue Code sections and researching case law. That is not what's happening, okay? Most audits are checklist driven. The agent is trained to look at categories that are presumed to be personal, and pets are at the top of that list. So when an examiner sees a pet-related deduction, it's almost always automatically denied. Not because the law has been analyzed, but because on its face, it sounds personal. And to be fair, most of the time pets are personal expenses, and we know under Section 262, it disallows deductions for personal, living, and family expenses, and the IRS starts from that assumption. That's why these deductions get denied at the audit level, even when they might be legally defensible. Okay, the IRS is applying administrative shortcuts, not judicial analysis, and unless the taxpayer knows the law and is willing to push back, the IRS's no becomes the final answer, even when it shouldn't. So let's look at the real law behind pet deductions, okay? Starting with the IRS's own words. First, we can go back to 1961 to see the IRS's tax position on dogs was that they could be deductible guard dogs for a business. In a private letter ruling, the IRS agreed that a German Shepherd purchased by a business owner to protect his store that had been robbed could be a business expenditure. This included the price to purchase the dog, the training costs, and the upkeep like food and vet bills. Now, private letter rulings are not technically legal precedent that the IRS is required to follow. They are specific advice to the taxpayer who receives the letters, but PLRs do two things, okay? They show us the IRS's tax position at that time, and it is still persuasive evidence in negotiating with the IRS. Why? Because you're showing the IRS their own tax position, and they do work to apply the law consistently for all taxpayers. But since we want to know what is legally deductible, we want to look at the court cases. We'll look at three categories of cases, okay? Cases the IRS conceded before trial, cases the taxpayers lost, and cases the taxpayers won. Okay, so first, cases the IRS conceded before trial. These cases are important because the IRS was preparing to fight the deductions and then back down. Like in Cox v. Commissioner, the taxpayer used a trained guard dog at his auto repair shop and deducted the cost of the guard dog. Okay, noted by the court, the business itself was not in the best place of town. The IRS reviewed the facts and conceded before trial. Okay, meaning they agreed the guard dog was a deductible business expense. Next, in C. Wright v. Commissioner, the taxpayers ran a scrapyard. They put out cat food to attract wild cats for pest control to deter snakes and rats from the area. The IRS originally denied the deduction, but before trial, they conceded the cat food was deductible as an ordinary and necessary business expense. Why? Because it served a legitimate business purpose. Who wants snakes and rats roaming around their business location? So those are the cases where the IRS was already going to trial, and despite having to already go to trial and bear the costs and time to litigate, they chose to concede the pet deductions as business expenses. Next, let's look at what happens when taxpayers lose their pet deductions in court. Okay, these cases show what happens when taxpayers fail to provide enough evidence. Like in Graves v. Commissioner, the taxpayers claimed they had a guard dog protecting business property, but the court disagreed. Okay, the judge wrote, they have not, however, presented any evidence as to the nature of the property being guarded or whether the dog was guarding their persons as opposed to their property. And then this gem, the court said their statement that the tax returns show business property that was guarded is frivolous, right? The court called their argument frivolous. That is tax court language for you didn't even try. And we have Rodriguez versus Commissioner, okay? The taxpayer was a real estate sales manager, and the court wrote, Rodriguez did not credibly testify that the dogs were primarily guarding business property, and we find that these expenses are just for his family dogs. They are not deductible. Okay, notice the word credibly. This is one of the most common statements in tax court cases across the board, especially when you lose. It basically means the court can say, we just don't believe you. Okay, they're under no obligation to accept your self-serving testimony, their phrase, not mine, without real evidence. Now, let's look at the cases where taxpayers won in court. Okay, these cases show what works, okay? So in Slawick v. Commissioner, the taxpayer kept a white English sheepdog at his medical office as security. The court accepted the use of the dog as a guard dog for the year it was kenneled at the medical office. And finally, in Sampson v. Commissioner, the IRS tried to deny the taxpayer's entire business activity and deductions for raising guard dogs. Okay, the taxpayer was breeding German Shepherds with wolves, and the IRS denied all the business deductions. But the court disagreed with the IRS that the activity was a hobby rather than a business and stated, raising vicious wolf dogs who can tear through chain link fences and devour cattle seems to us, however, a completely different prospect than playing with Rin Tin Tin, and then allowed the deductions for the guard dogs. So if you remember nothing else from this video, remember this. Pet deductions live or die on 3 rules, okay? This actually determines whether your pet qualifies. Rule number 1, you need compelling facts and evidence of what it is being guarded. Is it a person? Is it property? Simply saying your dog is used for business with no other supporting evidence almost never works. Instead, facts like prior break-ins, a dangerous location, high-value assets, or a legitimate pest control issue like rats and snakes then show how that impacts your business. Rule number 2, location matters. If the animal lives at home, the IRS typically assumes personal use. It is just like a vehicle parked at your house overnight, not conclusive, but highly persuasive. Okay, Slawick won because the dog was actually kept at the business. And rule number 3, your business activity matters. If you're in the business of raising guard dogs, then the deductions follow as ordinary and necessary. Or if you have a scrapyard or an auto repair shop in a rough area, then the need for guarding property becomes more clear. But if you're a real estate sales manager working out of your living room, then the need for a guard dog seems ambitious, right? The bottom line is the IRS hates pet deductions. Their default is no, okay? But tax court has said yes when the facts are right. Location, business activity, risk factors, and the nature of the property being protected with proof kept in real time. These are the details that decide whether your animal is a legitimate business asset or just your family pet with a new job title made up for tax season. So yes, you can deduct an animal, but only when it's truly a business expense under the law, not because someone online told you everything is ordinary and necessary because they say it confidently enough. And if you want to actually understand what the law says, subscribe for more actual tax law from a tax attorney.